ready to go live, then we're gonna go live then.
Yeah. Let's go live. Wait, did you just go live without telling me?
Uh-huh.
Oh my god! I knew that was weird. You're like, are you ready to go live? You never ask me if you're ready to go live.
Uh-huh.
It's like we're going live.
Yeah.
Oh my god! This is how we're gonna do it. This is what we're doing today.
That is such a corporate-esque intro. You think so? I thought it was fun and upbeat and very 90s intro. I like that one, Unrealist. And good morning, Unrealist. I haven't seen you in a while. Hi, and welcome to Waking Up with Nana and PepPep. I am Rugs from the internet. And yeah, I'm just a Rugs. Yeah, I'm not even from the internet. I'm just a Rugs. It's fine. Hello, good morning. And with me is my best friend in the entire world and co-host and the guy in the hot seat this week. It is PepPep.
It is toasty over here.
Yeah, come on. Are you feeling the fire burning of hell?
I am feeling it, yes. Whew.
Okay, yeah. I'm just like, the whole reason I want that on it is because I'm trying to find the right mic setting. Nothing is making me happy today, PepPep. Nothing is making me happy today. I thought you were the producer, PepPep.
Well, not for waking up. I'm not the producer for waking up. No, that's all rude.
I am in control, Paragon.
She is in control.
I'm in control.
How does that make you feel?
That's right. Female, right there.
Uh-huh.
Turns you guys on a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Paragon is ginger. Wow.
Nice. I like redheads. I do. You know, here's a fun fact. I always wanted to have red hair and green eyes growing up.
Red hair? Really?
I wanted to be a redhead with green eyes.
Okay. You can dye your hair and get contacts.
I do have a red hair wig.
You do.
I do. I wear it.
Gray eyes.
But gray eyes are just as good. But like, that was my ideal. Because everybody wanted to be blonde hair and blue eyes, but that's not what I wanted. But you know how you always want to be opposite of what you are when you're growing up because, you know, trauma. And so like, I wanted to be redheaded and green eyed. You see, even in my wanting to be somebody else, I wanted to be somebody else that people judge. So it's fine. Okay. Might as well embrace that here.
You wanted to be a ginger.
I wanted to be a ginger. It's cool. And you know what? My favorite name growing up, Barbara Ann.
Barbara Ann. You got country. Wow. Barbara Ann.
But fun fact, what I discovered later, I actually have an ancestor 3 times removed who is named Barbara Ann.
Well, that's a crazy random happenstance.
Mm-hmm. From Ireland.
Is it from, of course, you have Irish in you?
I do have Irish. And like, I can trace my mom's side all the way back to the 1600s.
You have quite the... Get Europe and Asia and...
Yeah. You want to know my dad's side? Fucking island on the Pacific. There ain't going nowhere. Where are you going to find from a Filipino? You're going to find the Philippines. And then Japan and Spain. Like what you got? Like there ain't nothing. There's nowhere else to go. Like there's not a lot. You're not going back a lot there.
This right here. This is all the land of Caucasia.
Barbara Ann, like someone who moved from Maine to Arkansas. Actually, I know somebody who moved from Maine to Texas. Yeah.
That was a culture shock.
Maine to Texas.
My God. Wow.
You know him.
Wait. Oh, that's the great southern state of Maine. Oh, him. That's right.
Bearded me. Beardful me.
Yeah, beardful me.
Okay. Well, let's get started. I am over here trying to make PepPep relax because he is all tied up in knots and not in a fun way either. So let us get through with this disclaimer. And here on Waking Up with Nana and PepPep, we are not here to put down or bash anybody's religious or religious faith or any of that, we are here. We think faith and religion can be beautiful things when done in a mentally and emotionally healthy manner. PepPep and I are not licensed professionals. Everything said on this podcast is for entertainment or educational purposes only. We are just two trauma triscuits. This is an editorial podcast. I'm being like, I'm trying to be a little bit more careful of how we word that because, like, we're getting into some deep subjects, so I don't want people to take that like as a. So we are two trauma triscuits giving our opinion on the freaking internet. Like, that is just what we are. We are trying to be honest and open and provide a community and safe space for everyone, and just sort of recount our opinions, our ideals, things that have worked for us, things that haven't worked for us, and our traumas, and just basically growing up in the church and being church kids. This is what happens when church kids from the 90s and 2000s grow up. This is what happens.
We deconstruct.
Yes, we're deconstructing. What was it I used to say? We're trying to deconstruct our religious faith and reconstruct ourselves as decent human beings.
Yep. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. So, and if you do need professional help, which we ain't it, please contact us. We definitely have some resources that we can give you to get you in touch with the help that you do need. If you are in a crisis, please make sure you contact somebody right away. That is very, very important. Sean and I both grew up in the Southern Baptist Church back in the Carolinas, and that fucked us up. Let's just say. That just fucked us up.
Just a little bit.
So, that's all I got.
What's our topic today?
What's our topic today, PepPep? Why don't you tell us what our topic is about today?
Today is our, what I call the AMA episode, is the Ask Me Anything episode. Also, as Roogs put it, it is PepPep story time. So this is me in the hot seat. This is a Roogs asking me questions, and there may be a little bit of vice versa.
Paragon. Oh, not just Southern Baptist, but that's Carolina correct. Southern Baptist. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My church was in the middle of a field.
Mine was close to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to a First Baptist or Second Baptist, so I was in it. I had one of them, like, churchy names. Yeah.
I had one. I had small town. Mine was small town church. That was, it was itty bitty, old school pews and everything. It was a tiny church.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So this is in the hot seat pretty much. Aruk's gonna throw some questions my way and call me out when necessary.
Okay, here's what we're doing. Well, I was thinking about this because he's like, "What are we doing today?" Yeah. And I responded with butts, and I was like, I don't know what we're doing. I've been working 60-hour weeks. I've been taking very little time for myself, so I've been trying to find that balance, and it's taking me some time. I'm getting there, but it's still like I'm still trying to. There's a lot. I'm going through a lot, and as we know from my streams from last week, I've been going through, like, I'm doing some heavy lifting. And so I was like, hi Bates. I was feeling that whole, okay, what are we going to talk about where I'm in it? And then I went, you know what episodes really work for us or work for the BSBN that I've always noticed? When it's cast member focused. And I said, let's put PepPep in the hot seat, because PepPep doesn't necessarily, he isn't like me. And that's great. That's why our dynamic works. He isn't like me. He's very opposite of me. And he doesn't necessarily is forthright with his information and all of his stuff unless directly asked. Me, I'll spout my shit on the internet at 4 a.m. I don't give a shit, but PepPep does. So,
yep.
So
I'm also not as introspective. So questions that some people that you may have answers for or have thought about, I haven't.
Does anybody have a D20 we can roll to see how well this episode goes?
Oh God, yeah. Critical thinking. Yeah, that's Jay. That is usually how it works. You find critical thinking, and then it all falls apart.
So I am. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say much of my life, at least the latter half of it, I tend to be. I got a 16. All right. I tend to be the question asker, and not the question receiver.
There's a reason for that.
And it wasn't until recently that I realized why. It's because I don't want to answer the questions. I want to ask the questions. I don't want to be the one talking and revealing information. I want the other person to do that. So when
for manipulative purposes.
No. Not necessarily for manipulative purposes. For purposes of not being open and vulnerable with people.
Tell me in your 20s you didn't ask questions for manipulative purposes.
Oh, in my 20s I probably did, yeah. Oh, in my 20s, yeah. I did a lot of stupid stuff.
Tell me not, but like 2 years ago you didn't ask questions for information so that you could use it to your advantage.
No, I don't think I did that. I don't. I really don't think I did that.
Okay. Now,
wait, are the questions starting now or are the questions starting in a minute?
How about 5 years ago? How about 5 years ago?
Oh, 5 years ago?
You weren't divorced then.
I think it would depend on who I was asking questions of.
So still, that is still asking questions to manipulate people. It's okay to admit that you were manipulative. We all have been manipulative at one point in our lives. Nobody has not asked questions for information.
Am I not loud enough, Bates? Really? Or are you just saying that because...
that's the entire point of information. If we were being honest, see, Jay gets it. The manipulation, like that is what like you do. Sounds fine to me. Yeah, it sounded fine to me. Okay.
All right. Let's get started.
You are so formal, PepPep. You think that I'm gonna ask questions like a fucking interview person? That's cute. That's cute.
Oh no. Your questions come hidden, come in and around and wrapped. Yeah.
You think I don't know how to manipulate people? You fucking crazy. Yeah. I'm way smarter than you, so it's fine. All right.
Yeah, that was true. Yeah, I would agree with that. Having information, being an information broker, knowing stuff about, oh God, yes, now it's coming back to me. Yes, I did use information to manipulate people, manipulate the situations, manipulate relationships. Wow, you'll be surprised with this person. I couldn't believe this person said this about you. Yeah, with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in college, just in No, I've been that person up until the therapy the last couple years. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. Yeah,
because you've used it on me, and I've gone really.
Mm-hmm.
Her intent is to ask open-ended questions and let you dig yourself in. See, again, Jay. Yeah. Again, Jay. Jay knows how. Jay recognizes how intelligent I am. He knows that. He knows it. He knows how good I am. All right, that's one. You got another 5 minutes. See, here's another thing that I'm going to reveal to you about PepPep in case you wanted to know, because now you'll never be able to unsee it. When PepPep is uncomfortable and he doesn't want to ask questions, he likes to cover his face, but he knows he can't cover his face with his hands. So what he does is he'll drink. He'll have a cup. He'll always have a cup. It's the cup of safety. And so what he'll do is when he's uncomfortable, he'll hold the cup here, or he'll like drink a lot. And so, or he'll just sit here and like rub his nose or rub his mouth or whatever. That is him being uncomfortable, trying to hide himself. So I made a rule before the podcast. I said he is only allowed to take a drink every 5 minutes, and don't think that I am not watching the clock. And luckily for you guys, he said that right at 12:20 my time, 1:20 his time. God. So I can easily keep count of when he takes a drink of his drink. So here we go. You did your one. Good luck on it in the next 5 minutes, PepPep. All right, here we go.
Do you remember the first time we met after the reboot? Remember the place that we met?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember how much I drank during that conversation?
Oh, I do. I do.
Okay. Yeah.
I also remember that terrible coat you wore. Oh, I hope you threw that away. Okay. Glad I wasn't careful, Luke. You have one of the same tails. Oh, I know I do. I have a shit ton of tails. I'm like it's fine. I have a hair flip. Mine, like my hair flip. I
Mhm.
often play with my hair, like when I'm nervous. So, and
Yeah.
eye aversion. Shh, that's in
We get
private,
we
Jay.
get
We don't tell
yeah,
anybody
we
that
got
in private. We don't tell about the eye
oh, I
aversion.
thought you wait, I thought you liked I thought you liked eye contact.
All
All
right,
right. Hmm.
Pep.
Let's do
Why don't you
this.
tell me about one of your earliest memories? One of your earliest. What is your one of earliest memories that you can recall, good or bad? Like, what is something that just really stands out to you in your childhood that really sort of is one of those things that you just will never go away for you?
Um, I remember. I think part of the reason this one doesn't go away for me is because my parents bring it up all the time, and I don't really understand why. Um, uh, they just do. Um, I lived in the same house for my entire childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the back in the woods, um, and it was off the beaten path. And one day I walked outside. I was a little kid. I walked outside, and down the steps. It was a back porch, and then you go down the steps. Down the steps, there was a snake, and there was no rope, and that snake was coiled up. And I, for some reason, decided to play chicken with it. And so, yeah, I began jumping back and forth over top of the snake.
And you
Yeah,
remember
I get
that?
a running. Yeah, I get a running start, and I would jump over the snake, and then I turn around and get a running start, and I jump over the snake. I don't know why. I've never been afraid of snakes.
You would do some
I've
dumb shit like that. Here's my thing is that you were fearless. Like that's like you being a kid and being like fearless. You're like
yep.
you didn't
Mm-hmm.
give a shit. You knew that you
Nope.
knew as a kid that snake was gonna could hurt you, and you still you gave no shits. You were like,
Nope. Nope. Mm-mm. Whatsoever. I was playing with it. I was having fun. Mm-hmm.
so you were so your aversion to danger is
Uh-huh.
not your personality. It is your trauma. Okay, all right, we're coming to
Yes.
that. All right,
There you go.
there you
Yep.
go.
That Jay. That's a whole different situation.
And
You're
it's
dope rope.
never a nope rope. It's a
Nope.
hope rope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar
That's
snake story, but mine turned out way
yeah.
differently.
How did yours turn out?
So my dad, when my parents first separated, when we moved from, because we lived, my dad had just, we lived in Virginia Beach, and then my mom and dad separated, and we moved to our house in Cherville. And so my dad was coming down to visit. And so it was late, but my mom let me stay up. And I was a country kid, like any other country kid. Like we owned 8 acres of land. Like if you look up my address,
Wow.
there's like it's my house and like field all around it, like acres of like nothingness. I didn't grow up with neighbors. My neighbors were literally like 2 acres, like a half a mile over. So, and so I was like, Mom let me stay up, and I was running around the house, just sort of like you, just running around, and I was barefoot, and I was like, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna wait for Dad. Dad will be here soon. Like I'll be like any other excited little kid, and I was bouncing down the stairs, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. Like it wasn't like when I say stairs, I don't know, maybe like outside country
Mm-hmm.
brick stairs, and I was luckily I had stopped. Like I had looked down right before I hit the ground, and there was a copperhead. And I mean, it was not one of those small ones. I mean, it was very substantial, like laid out across the bottom against the stairs, because it was the cool brick. And
Yeah.
I stopped, and I like was able to stop myself before stepping on it, because I would have stepped right in the middle, which would have it would have bit me.
Oh.
And I
Ouch.
screamed, and I ran up the stairs, and I remember that my grandmother got the old rusty like 80-year-old hoe that we had, like garden hoe, and she was just chopping away at
Of
it. Like
course.
yeah. So
Of
yeah,
course.
I was not fearless. I was definitely a girly girl in that moment. I was like screamed at because I was barefoot. I was like a little kid. I was terrified. Ever since then, been terrified of snakes. It's fine. And there was a snake in our church. That should have been a clue. There was a copperhead in our church.
Oh, I thought you meant your church handled snakes because that is a thing.
Yeah, that is a thing. But no, there was a copperhead that in our church. And somebody had to get it. And I distinctly remember the smell. You know how snakes have like a smell? Like there's a smell. Mm-hmm. And I remember the smell of it. And I was just like, yeah. And it was like, it was very, for some reason, the snakes were really bad that year. And so that was the same summer. So I remember I was just like, I was done as a kid. I was like, nope, now I have a phobia of snakes. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
But you love snakes. Nope.
Yeah.
Always have loved snakes.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I owned snakes for a while.
Yeah, I need to mine them for some copper. That's fine. I need some copper and lead.
Yeah.
Idiots can also be perceived as fearless. That's true.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah. So I've never had a fear of snakes. I own snakes. I owned several snakes in college. I even had snakes in the dorm room when they weren't allowed to be in the dorm room. How did I get away with that, you ask? Good question. They were Kenyan sand boas. So I had a terrarium with a couple inches of sand, and the snakes would lay under the sand, and the only thing that would stick up would be their snout. No one, whenever someone looked at, we did an inspection wherever they did room inspections, they would see a terrarium with sand in it. No one would ever get close enough to inspect the sand. So I got away with it.
I remember those motherfucking snakes.
Yeah. My landlord killed them. When I lived in the White House, my landlord killed him. Yeah. It's pretty mad. He didn't do it intentionally.
I remember those snakes, and I remember you were like, go ahead and pet that. I was like, fuck that. Fuck that. That was one of the contentions in our relationship. I was like, you were so in love with those goddamn snakes. And I was like, why? Like I had to sleep in the same room with those goddamn snakes. Fucking bullshit.
I put them, I eventually put them in a different place. Oh, what is my opinion? You know, I'm fine with planes. I'm fine with snakes and I'm fine with planes. I don't know how I feel about putting them together.
Wow, Bates.
Wow. Oh, yeah. That's right, Jay. I just wanted to share my snakes with the world.
just a little kiss on the head. So tell me about holidays in your house. Tell me about Christmas. Ooh. What was Christmas like growing up for you?
Christmas is kind of a tough thing for me. Actually, a lot of holidays are tough for me. Mm-hmm. Christmas was difficult for the first 7-8 years of my life. I think Christmas was pretty normal. It was my older brother and me. My younger brother wasn't born until I was 8. And so I think to me, I would think of it as a typical Christmas tree, Christmas decorations, you open up presents. My earliest Christmas memory, I'm going to throw this out there because I don't know if we even talked about this one.
Oh, look, we're all learning something.
Yeah, this one clicks with some. Yeah.
Stop picking at your nails.
I'm not. I was doing this.
Oh, you've been 10 minutes. Brother, you can have a drink now if you want.
No, I'm gonna hold it till I need it.
Okay.
My one Christmas Eve, my brother convinced me that the parents had agreed. Their parents had said that we could open up one present on Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. And there are some families that do that. They have that rule. And some of my friends did. So when my brother told me that, we had never done it before. But when he told me that, like, I didn't really question it. I mean, I was also a little kid. Older brother told me something that the parents had said, so I believed him. I believed so I tore into one. I picked a gift and I tore into it. Then my parents came out, wondering why I had decided to open up a gift. And do you think my brother said, "Oh, I told him. I told him"? No, my brother ran. My brother was dead silent. Nope, he did it all on his own. I got in trouble for opening up a gift because my brother told me that I could, and I took the full blame for that. Yeah.
Wow.
So, that's probably my earliest Christmas memory. But up until 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, Christmas was normal. But that's when around that time is when the hoarding started,
Mhm.
and there was a progression. So for anyone who doesn't know, my parents, especially my mother, is a hoarder, are hoarders.
And
And
when
I
we
don't
say hoarder, we don't mean like, oh, oh, I hoard things. Like, people joke about it, like legitimate hoarders.
if you've ever seen the show Hoarders, if you haven't, go take a look at it. Go watch an episode. That is an idea. That's a good idea of what my parents' house looked like. It is that bad. It really is that bad. The only thing it didn't have is it didn't have like anyway. So my parents are hoarders. So it started to get worse and worse. It got to a point where there wasn't anywhere to sit in the living room where
Mhm.
the tree was, and there wasn't anywhere to put up a tree. And then it just got worse and worse, and parents kept saying it was going to change, but it went from having Christmas being the typical Christmas to Christmas being we're like picking stuff up and like stacking things. We had to clear a space in the living room in order to sit down to pass out presents. Um, and then we juxtaposed that. That was Sunday morning or Christmas morning. That afternoon, we would go to my aunt and uncle's.
Mhm.
My aunt and uncles were upper middle class, picture perfect house, picture perfect neighborhood, perfect house. Everything looked right. Everything was in its place. So to have Christmas one way in the morning and then to have Christmas a different way in the afternoon to see what the other side of my family was like, Christmas was like, was a bit jarring. Um, and I found myself like, why don't we have that? Why don't we have that for Christmas?
Mhm.
Um, and I became very pretty resentful about it.
Mhm.
Because it didn't holidays stopped becoming such a kind of a magical time. Like Christmas, it stopped being like a magical time,
Mhm.
and it started just it didn't hold it. It really didn't hold that much for me at that point.
Yeah.
It was yeah. I just think I became
So what happened after you got married? Like what happened? Like what was the transition for holidays? Because that changes. Like when you get married,
it does.
it changes things. It changes the dynamic, especially when you start having your own home and you start growing up and you're able to make your own traditions and your own holidays. Like what was that like for you? Like that transition from going to that
Um, yeah.
to, you know.
Um, so surprisingly, it wasn't. I th- I want to say I want to compare it to something, but the comparison is really it's in my head or what I see from other people.
Mhm.
Um, and my therapist brought this up when we talked about it. As you get married, and then you kind of figure out we're going to spend Christmas with this part of the family, that part of the family. We're going to figure out what the traditions are.
Mhm.
My wife grew up. My wife had a pretty difficult childhood. Her family didn't want her. Her dad didn't want her. She moved. She lived with her dad. She had it pretty rough. So like there was no family bond. There was not a strong family bond with her growing up. So there really wasn't a let's go spend time with this side of the family because they didn't care. They didn't. Her family there wasn't as bad as mine was. Hers was just as bad. So there wasn't really a fight for hey, I want to spend Christmas with my family this year because neither her family didn't really care. So what ended up happening because we couldn't go to my parents' house.
Hmm.
for Christmas. That just completely went away. There was no Christmas at the parents' house. They came to my house. They came to our house, and so we did Christmas there at the house. Um, so my parents would come in bringing just loads of stuff, and they'd stay for like a week. Um, and then sometimes we'd go visit her mom, who lived a couple hours away, and then sometimes we'd like go visit her dad, who lived a couple hours away, and it was always for a short time. Like my parents would come for like a week, stay for
Hmm.
like a whole week, and then we'd see her family for like a day,
Hmm.
for each one. So because her parents got divorced when she was young. Um, though we never talked about it, I think she kind of came to resent that because
Why?
there was I think what there was priority put on my family coming to stay for like a week was just became kind of an expectation.
Hmm.
And so I think she felt that she was forced to kind of put up with it. Also, we couldn't just go. Well, we could have, but like when we went to visit her family, it was for like see her dad and her stepmom for a couple hours, and then we'd go visit her mom for a couple hours, um, which was very different than
Grace, we'll get to your pick me up here in a second once Pip
yeah,
gets on.
which was very different than what we did with my parents. So I think she didn't like that so much emphasis was put on
Yeah, but did she
time
say
with my family.
anything? Was that something that y'all talked? I mean, obviously you said that it wasn't like it was it something that did she bring it up because she was very vocal about things that she didn't like. So I find it hard that like I mean, she just like I'm.
She The only time that I remember her bringing it up was when she talked about um, having to schedule her family around my family. That did come up. That did come up sometimes. Not till years into it. We're talking like 7 8 years into it.
Gotcha.
I remember her bringing that up. So, um, but yeah. So holidays have always been weird for me.
Yeah, but that describes like the semantics of it. Like, how was it? Like, were you, um, I know for me, like getting out on my own, and especially when I started, because I mean, it's different because I'm a parent. But when I started having kids, like and I got married in our first Christmas, like it
Mm-hmm.
was very emphasis on what I wanted my holidays to look like. Like, what did I want? What did I want? What, like, where that was, like, what I wanted it to feel like on on Christmas morning, on Thanksgivings. What did I want my holidays to? I wanted my holidays to be like, which has evolved over time, obviously. But
Yeah.
like for you, like you described, like sort of the logistics, but what was it like? I mean, going from like that hoarding and that really that feeling and that disconnect, especially with your aunt and uncle and your cousin house, and being
Yeah.
that like there has to be a place where when now you're hosting your own Christmases and you're having to balance your ex, like what was that like what did you feel, what did you think, or was it just something that you just tried to survive until it was over?
It really it did become trying to survive. So when I lived at home, uh, we'd open up presents and then we'd all go to our corners. We'd all scatter to our rooms and then do what our own thing. There was never a lot of family stuff. There was not there was not cooking. There was no cooking a big meal and having a big breakfast or having a big lunch or anything like that. They so it was a very kind of like almost isolating. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we had a little family thing. We exchanged some gifts, but then like we just dispersed. And so I was in my room doing my own thing. Um, when I got married, we didn't have kids, and so for us, it was like, I mean, the ex and I we could have had a Christmas just the two of us, but neither of us grew up with Christmas being a big deal, with Christmas being like a lot of effort and magic put into it, and a lot of it didn't hold that. I came to want that,
Mm-hmm.
Especially now. That's one thing now. Now I've come to like I want that.
Hmm.
I want I want I want to be around people I care about. See, Christmas wasn't about being around people I care about. Christmas came to be being around people I had to be around.
Hmm.
I remember one of the things I didn't like about Christmas is I couldn't see my friends. I didn't care much about my family. I
Hmm.
didn't. I didn't care that I was I to me Christmas, all the Christmas stuff was like I was a prisoner. I had to do these things.
Hmm.
I had to sit here and do that. I actually disliked the holidays some because I couldn't see my friends because my friends were off doing their own family things. And I kind of felt miserable and I felt isolated. There was no joy. There really wasn't a lot of joy in it. I mean,
So,
there's like, oh,
so now that you're on your own, now that you are, single, and you can make your you can make your holidays your own. It's like, so what, like, you want that closeness, you want that, it's not
I,
even just about the magic. It's not even, and the magic part of it is just making somebody, being with the people you care about. That's what you want. You want that
yes,
connection.
yes, and I do not have that with my family.
Hmm.
I do not care if my parents didn't come up, which I know is never going to be not there, which is not something they're ever going to propose. Um, Christmas potluck. I remember sitting at my at my aunt and uncle's house for the Christmas dinner.
Everybody's
Like,
like Christmas at PepPep. You
yes.
know what? You know what though? Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't have my kids this Christmas. I have them Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Now that will be
that's an
sad, and I
idea.
probably will cry. I will
Yeah.
probably like be heart wrenching, and I don't know how I'll feel about that. However,
You know the best way to handle that.
or everybody can come to my house.
Or we can have road trip. Yeah. Christmas to me, Christmas is about Christmas is being around the people you care about. And for me, that's my friends. My family, I've never had that connection with my family.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bates, here's your pick me up. Uh, Bates, I have enjoyed just everything about these past couple of years with you. I really have. I think that you are, I love your fearlessness. You're not like,
Yes.
I think when I started my whole journey, like a part of that was very intimidating to me because that is something that I wanted, because I was not like that. You were like, you gave zero shits about what people thought about you, and you were just you, and you are that person, and this is what you get. And I absolutely admire that. And I was like, I always have wanted that for myself.
Mhm.
Because of my, like, all my trauma and all this stuff. And it's very just, I love being around you because you give zero shits about what people think about you. You're so confident about yourself. And I absolutely love that about you. And I want that one day. I want that for myself one
Yeah.
day. I want that type of confidence and self-love one day. So I think it's awesome, and it's very refreshing, and I love it, especially when in like a couple of years ago, in that point in my life, I was surrounding myself with a bunch of people who weren't honest about that and didn't care about that and weren't confident about that, and so it's awesome. I really do. I enjoy it. It's so refreshing, and she's so uplifting too. It's not just
Yes.
even like when she cared, like once she cares about you, like once you're in her circle, like she is all about your being your cheerleader and being there and making sure you have what you need. Like she's awesome. I love you, Bates. So there's your pick me up. I hope that
Oh,
helped.
that was awesome.
Okay, so that was Christmas, and
Yeah.
so tell me about your first church memory. Tell me about your baptism. What your tell me your baptism story. Tell me.
Um.
Tell me about how you got saved. Give
ah,
me your testimony,
oh.
Pep Pep. I
Okay.
want to
Oh
hear
my
your
God.
testimony.
Oh Lord.
I want to share
Okay.
your
The
testimony with
one
me.
I remember, I was 10 years old, the ripe old age of 10.
Because we're all wise at
Because
10.
Because at 10, I totally understand what it means to give my life to Sky Daddy. Okay, so I was 10 years old, and the event was a Rick Gage revival. My church did
Of
revivals
course you
like
got saved at a revival.
concerts. Of
Of
course
course
I
you
did.
did. Of course you did. Continue.
Yeah. Oh, here you want this?
I want it all.
The first time I asked someone to the first time I asked a girl was in middle school to go do something with me, like to an activity. It was actually to a revival. Yeah, that's how indoctrinated I was. Yeah, I had a huge crush on this one girl. Yeah, and that was what happened. It didn't go well. No. Hmm. So, it was yeah. So,
We love you,
I
babes.
yeah, we do. We absolutely do. Yeah. So I got saved at 10 years old at a Rick Gage revival because my church did revivals all the time. And of course, revivals, they are great about creating this feeling, this emotion, and this the spirit is moving, which is really not what we think it is. It's actually so yeah. I was stirred, and I was like, this is how I feel, and I'm gonna commit my life to this religion, to this way of life.
It's called.
Yeah, this cult, pretty much. That's what happened. So
Now, okay, so what was it about it? Like, can you describe it? Can you remember? Like, or was it just like what part of you said, like what part of you as a little kid, like that has to stand out because that was a really big deal for us. Like that was the start of everything. Do you remember like feeling move? Like how did you like what did you feel pressured? Like
sorry, I was laughing at Paragon's comment.
I mean,
Wow.
it was pretty much like that. I
Yeah, what it
mean,
was. Yeah. Um every I remember I think it was the emotion of it all. I think it was getting swept up in the feeling that is created by those revivals. Um the wanting to spend eternity in heaven, and someone cared so much about me that they died for me. Martyrdom idea. um the not wanting to spend my my eternity in hell, but spending it in heaven and all this beautiful glorious place. I think it was really the emotions that kind of like, this is what I want. This is it's wanting that it's not realizing that emotion that was invoked is just an emotion. It's something designed, those activities are designed to create.
but at
I
10, that's when the hoarding was there, right?
Yeah, the hoarding would have started. It wasn't that bad. It was definitely a progression.
Right.
For the first couple of years, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I say wasn't that bad as in like compared to what it is now. But it was like there was stacks of things. It was like, the hoarding was, things started to stack up a little bit.
Mhm.
Paths started to be created a little bit. It was a little bit harder to walk through the hallway. And I remember the kitchen table. I remember having dinner at the kitchen table. And then there was a point where like the kitchen table became full of stuff that couldn't be moved. And so dinner meals were never at the kitchen table, which that creates divide within the family when you don't eat together, when everyone always eats on their own. It
I that's not true.
No.
Mm-mm. I mean, yes, does it help in that community part of it? Yes. Does it help
Yeah,
in that connection? But
it's not the
do
only thing, but
no, I think that there are many families who eat together who aren't close. I think that
that's a good
I
point.
don't necessarily think that. I mean, there are families that are close that they're so busy with like, activities and stuff that they don't all eat together. But I think it's more of making sure you have that time together, regardless of whether it is eating a meal and it doesn't have to be every day. And it's not about quantity, it is about quality. And like, I don't see my kids every day, but I make sure that we have time together and we spend time together, and it's about quality. So I think that that was like a very traditional view. And I think that was where in our generation, that was the only time our parents made time for us. So I think that's sort of where our generation, it comes in that whole, well, that's the only way, because we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. We didn't have FaceTime. We didn't have any of those. My kids feel close to me, even though we don't eat meals together. Like we eat meals together sometimes, but they don't feel any less connected to me because they can call me and FaceTime me whenever they want. But our parents, our generation, I think maybe that's, when you make that
dinner time was that moment where the opportunity for connection
for our generation. But so when you make a statement like that, I don't want it to be like that, a very much like it's not nowadays that idea of having a meal together every day. Now, is that the only time that you can make that connection with your family or your loved ones or whoever, then that's fine. That works for you. But I think that that's not necessarily the case anymore.
Okay.
So I feel just as close to my kids, and my kids feel just as close to me. And we don't eat meals around a dinner table every single day. And so in our generation, that was something that because that was the only time they made the effort. So 30 minutes for food, time for unwrapping presents, and everyone's scattered.
Yep. Yeah. And then it got to a point when where there wasn't even food. It was, food was you woke up and you put something in the microwave. You heated up an Eggo waffle. And then, but my dad always read the Christmas story every Christmas morning before we open presents.
That's a nice memory.
I combine that memory. The memory I have of him doing that is combined with the memory of not having anywhere to sit in the living room, the hoarding. That's the memory. That memory that I have of him reading that is also the memory of not having anywhere to sit, and the hoarding, being involved in the hoarding. So that's why I was like,
But this is radical acceptance, though. It can be a nice memory and still be a traumatic one, and still still hold like. So it's that whole. It's not either or. It's not like, oh, it is a traumatic bad memory because of the hoarding, but it can be and is a nice memory, and it comes with its own trauma on top of that they can be true simultaneously.
Yeah.
Oh, see, you throwing trauma back in my face this past week. I can throw it right back at yours, PepPep. And there you go. All right, we went 30 minutes. I'm proud of you, PepPep.
All right.
I am so proud of you. You went 30 minutes. I'm hitting you with some stuff. Look at you. I am hitting you with some stuff. So, speaking of, let's go, PepPep. So we're going. Oh, all right. Here's one. All right. So you are very much a traditional type of guy, like we sort of talked about. Like you strive to, and who says PepPep can't last?
Right. Exactly. Wait, Kevino. Who's saying that? Come on, Kevino. Oh, you know what? That was 20 years ago.
Fair enough. All right. Okay. I don't know, though. I've seen your ex-wife.
Yeah, but was that more me or her?
I don't know anyone that would say that.
Yeah, it was cold that day. Absolutely. It was very cold. Yes. Exactly right. Thank you, Paragon.
Okay. Well, at least we have some levity.
And it had never happened before.
Never.
Never.
But it's okay. It happens to all the guys. But
Wait, where are we going with this?
okay. Well, you know what? This is a progression. So you know what? Well, let's run with this. Let's run with this. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
see, you want to fucking run your mouth? All right, let's run your mouth. All right. Tell me about your first sexual encounter. And I don't mean like kissing, but it can't be starting with like hand stuff or mouth stuff or whatever. But tell me about your first sexual encounter and how you felt about that, because I know you were part of purity culture. So I need to know, like, how did that like sit with you? Because I know how it sat with me and my first well, mine was a very traumatic event. So that's beyond that. I mean, but how did your first sexual encounter and how did you sort of feel afterwards, especially when you were such an avid churchgoer?
You want to know the first time I touched a boob?
First off, you said boob. You were about to say a pair of tits, and then you were like, "Nah, I just touched a boob."
Just a boob. Yeah, actually, it was. Well, no, it was. I don't know.
Did you please tell me you did this?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't actually. No, it was at. It wasn't at a. It wasn't at a church camp. It was at a YMCA retreat. What? Oh my God.
Hey, does this track sound like chloroform to you? Here,
can you take a big whiff?
Okay.
Oh God. Jay.
So it was at church camp?
It was at a YMCA. It wasn't called church camp, but YMCA is religious based, so I mean it was kind of like that. It was the final. It was the last night of. No, it was final count. Okay. Hey, it was the final night, and they had the big old slideshow, and this is how the week went, and all that kind of stuff. So, everyone was sitting on the floor, and this one girl that I'd kind of been talking to through the week, she ended up. I don't remember how that ended up happening, but she ended up in my lap, laying back in my lap. And so I think I was massaging her shoulders at that point. I think that's what happened. I think that was my move. That's how that was my end. And then so at some point,
I'm sorry, I'm
my
trying not to
hand
laugh.
started going lower. Mm-hmm.
Oh, were you freaking out? I can imagine you doing the PepPep freak out.
I was freaking out. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was a church kid. Yep. Caught in the slide.
Because you were saying the slideshow. I was like,
oh, the slideshow. No, it wasn't. No. That's
famous words. I don't know how she ended up in my lap. Officer, I don't know how she ended up there. I don't know how she ended up there. Honey, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. And she just ended up there.
She was helping me undo my zipper. Yeah. So yeah, I that's when it happened.
And she allowed it. She just sat. She just like there. She didn't say anything. Did you know her? Like, did you talk to her afterwards? Or
yeah. Well, we've been talking throughout the week, so there was some interest. There was some interest there. But then after that, of course, I was like head over heels. Of course, because she let me touch a boob.
Just the one.
Just the one.
How old were you?
How old was I? Oh, I was 10th grade. Yeah. So that was what? 14? What is 10th grade?
Ask for boob massage. Bates will let you touch her boobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, boob massage. That's a thing. Yeah, totally thing.
No, that was before 5 minutes.
Was it?
Yes.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So that was the first time. That was the first time.
Yeah. How did you feel after that?
Mm-hmm. Happy.
You didn't feel guilty at all? Was there ever a time you started feeling ashamed? When did you let me rephrase that. When did you start feeling ashamed of sex and sexuality? And what is the time where you felt the most ashamed of your sexuality?
It was when I was dating my first significant girlfriend in high school. I think when I was in 11th grade. I think we started on day when I was 11th grade. It was then because like that was like a one-time thing. Um, Whereas when I started dating her, when I started dating this girl in high school, that became a more consistent thing, and that became like we would sneak off to go do stuff. And she was also the first person I had sex with. So that's when it became a consistent thing. That's when the guilt set in because I do these things and then I'd go to church
Mm-hmm.
and it was just this back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the guilt really started to set in.
Yeah.
How could I? Yeah, how could I be? How could I be? A Christian and like I'd. How could I be a Christian and still do these things that you can't do both and am I when I ask for forgiveness am I really asking for forgiveness? Is
Because you
God
know
really
you're going to do it
forgiving
again.
me? Because I'm probably gonna do it again.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do it again, but I also felt guilty. I felt guilty for wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm. So when was the most times when was the time you felt most guilty, like most ashamed? Because here's the thing, PepPep, it wasn't necessarily you're saying guilty. Guilty is when you've done something wrong. Guilty is when so it's not necessarily you were doing anything wrong because you weren't. You were feeling the shame.
Yeah.
You were feeling ashamed, not
because I wasn't supposed to do that. I wasn't supposed to like that. I wasn't supposed to want to do that.
Right.
And so something was wrong with me.
Oh.
Something had to have been wrong with me because I wanted to do it, but I wasn't supposed to want to do it.
Gotcha.
And I kept doing it. I felt bad for doing it, but then I wanted to do it and I kept doing it. Like I couldn't control myself. I felt like I couldn't control myself. And I felt shame because I felt that way because I couldn't control my urges. My flesh was weak.
the wow, the venom that came out of that. My flesh was weak. Like, oh shit. Okay, all right. Can I tell that this is a little bit of a touchy subject for you? All right, cool. Now that it is the touchy subject, tell me of when you felt the most ashamed of it. Like there has to be a time where you stood out that really affected you, like towards your sexuality.
Most ashamed of it?
Yeah. And it's okay. And it's okay if it involves me.
Most ashamed of my sexuality or most ashamed of
anything sexual? Like there has to be moments that stand out that you're like you look back on that and you're like, you're like feel the cringe in yourself.
I mean, there were moments. I wouldn't say necessarily like shame or guilt, but there were moments. There were bad moments, bad sexual moments, or like, yeah, I can tell you the one that probably sticks the strongest with me.
Go ahead. We've already talked about it, so it's fine. Okay. I'm good with it. I am good.
I'm touching my cup.
I know. Hey, PepPep. It's a safe space. We've already talked about it. I already know, so it's okay.
It was when you called me by a different name, but I didn't realize it. That's one that's a tough one. That was a really hard one. So it just felt.
I'm sorry.
It absolutely could be the case. I mean,
I did.
Sometimes they're that good. Yeah. Anyway.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
What about that moment like really hurt you?
That's what. Well. Because you weren't there in the moment with me, you were somewhere else that was also in a very ugly. It was representative of a very bad time for us.
It was. we weren't having sex because we liked each other. Like that's I'm making that very clear, and I'm not defending myself because that's horrible and that's horrible. But there was a period where Sean and I were like together but not together, and we were not having sex because we liked each other. We were pretty much out to revenge each other.
Yeah. We were either horny or we were trying. It was spite.
It was spite. We would fight. Yeah, like back in
in our defense, we were good at it. So
it was spite. It was a lot of spite. But were we together?
I don't remember if we were together at that point or
not. Because that period was we didn't date for very long. It's very.
We only dated for like 6 months.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like that period, honestly, that period before you started dating your ex, like it's really. I mean, we were friends. We didn't do it all the time, but it's like a gray area. Like.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Oh, the stupid things we did in our late teens, early 20s. What we thought was okay and what came out of emotional trauma. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. No, but the reason I say that, for our people watching, it is something that Sean and I both have already discussed, and it is not something I'm proud of. It isn't. It is something that I feel terrible about. But at the same time, that is also the period of my life I'm working on. And I'm learning how to just understand that is something that happened and I am not proud of it. And but Sean and I have talked about it and he wasn't in the same place either.
No.
So it is not something I'm proud of. And I really, I feel terrible about it. And like I am over here like feeling the shame in my face. Like I can feel it. Like I feel like going, oh, fucking. But
it's okay.
But it is something that I did. And like I did like you see what most of our community sees is you and I being Nana and PepPep, where we are sitting there. We talk about being awful. We make a joke about it, and we make and we're really like we're best friends. So we're like we've done a lot of things and. Don't brag about your cooking. Men will eat.
I mean, fair. Fair. Yes.
But there is a lot of trauma and a lot of things that Sean and I worked through. Like there was the first year of when we rebooted was a lot of us. Maybe the first 2 years, just really. Yeah. Hashing it out. And what we didn't realize, the longer we were friends after the reboot, the deeper we realized how much that went through. And because a lot of stuff would start to resurface, as you know, when you're dealing with trauma and you're all this stuff.
Picking it.
We're like, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden we would get upset with each other, or we would fight, or he would get mad at me, or I would get mad at him. And we didn't understand we're like, where'd that the fucking come from? And then we started talking about it and really sat down and started. So, there's a lot of trauma that
we did a lot
have
of
inflicted on each other.
So where we're at, this has not come easily. We didn't just pick up after 15 years and like right back where I'm glad we didn't pick up right where we left off, because that would have been a very bad place. So one of the interesting things that I find about when we rebooted is like I would say, hey, this thing that happened, this upset me. I didn't like this. This bothered me. And then we'd talk about it and we'd realize that was just the surface. And then like there was one situation in particular regarding an ex-girlfriend. I don't know if you could even call her that. Like side I put a lot. Yeah, there you go. I directed a lot of blame at Arugs for how I played the victim. I was the victim in that situation. And I wanted to let you know how I felt about that I was not happy. And I was hardcore the victim here. And then we started talking about it. And you were like, whoa, you're like, I've been thinking about this. We need to talk about this. And we started to unravel. And I realized that I was absolutely at fault, as much at fault there as you, if not more. because I manipulated the mess out of that situation and out of you. I manipulated you and I manipulated the other person. I was deep into that. I was not a victim in that situation at all. And that was a tough one. Actually, I think that was one of the moments where that was a turning point in our reboot that it could have if I had not accepted responsibility for what I did, our reboot would have died. Done.
Absolutely. It would have, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things, and this is PepPep. The PepPep you see now, he's very much. This is a lot of what you see now: the openness, the vulnerability, sort of the taking accountability, that type of thing is many years of hard work. When we both rebooted, was that 2017, 2016, 17?
Yeah.
So
I think 2018.
Yeah, like so 5 or 6 years ago, which a lot happens in 5 or 6 years, obviously. But he held on for 15 years, a lot of resentment toward me and a lot of very much placing the blame on me.
I did. Yep.
And we had to come to that. Like, we had to come to that when we rebooted. It was something, hi, catching up, all these things. What's going on with you? What's going on with you? You get to that through that initial, like, oh, they're talking to me again. And then you get to that point where things start to resurface. Like, things start to resurface, and it takes two people and taking accountability, because PepPep really villainized me, which I find quite interesting, that you vilified me for so many years, yet you were the one that was so desperate to want to talk to me all those 15 years. So what does that say about your trauma? What does that say about your trauma?
You want to know why I villainized you? You want to know why I villainized you?
Sure. I would love to know.
Because I was not willing to take responsibility for where I was in my marriage, and I was not able to talk about there were things I wasn't able to talk about, because I would be vulnerable, and I didn't want to be vulnerable, and so it was easier to blame you for something than to be vulnerable about what was going on, why I felt the way I did, or why I was acting the way I did. Some of that was the sexual aspect within my marriage. The sexual aspect of my marriage was terrible. And I wasn't instead of analyzing and being introspective and really digging into what was going on for me to act the way I did, it was easier for me to just blame you than to take accountability for my own life. It's not that I actually blamed you. It's that I scapegoated you because it was easier.
I'm dumbstruck. That good job. I don't know. You were so vulnerable in that moment, and on top of that, you were vulnerable and honest, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And it's not that you were just like, you were trying to it was one of those, like, you really were very introspective, and you were very open and honest and vulnerable, and you
gold stare. I'll take a gold stare, Calvino. A gold stare is fine.
We grow to love and hate. Yeah. Somebody has earned a treat. Yeah, that, Sean, that's huge. What you just said there was just really huge. I'm dumbstruck. I really am.
I didn't realize that until we had rebooted and we had talked about things, and I had unloaded on you.
I remember. I felt like garbage. I very distinctly remember the day you unloaded on me, and I was in tears. Now I realize that, that was a combination of my trauma and trying to relive that part of my life, and how I really didn't want to relive that part of my life. But, anyway, but go ahead. Yes, I remember that day very distinct.
Yeah.
I remember somebody had to bring me ice cream at work because I was that upset. They're like, "Oh my God." Like, here they brought me ice cream.
Oh.
I felt that bad. Yeah, I felt terrible. I felt absolutely awful. I remember.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It was I remember unloading all of that on you, and then you taking it. I mean, like I said, it was terrible. But I had unloaded on you without understanding my role, without accepting my role in it. I had just 15 years. I had built up this
Resentment.
resentment because, and so it was after that point, and then we had started to unwind, or open that up, that I realized I had a huge part to play in that, and that I was not a victim, that I was more the villain.
No, I don't like. It's not even that you were the
I didn't like
villain.
saying that. I was very much I was the reason a lot of that stuff happened. I had a part to play in the things that happened.
Mhm.
I was not a victim. Let's just say that I was not the victim. That I started to think about the 15 years and what I had done, what I'd said, and what I'd thought, and I started to look at that. But it wasn't until we had a conversation about like sexual identity, because you had got started doing Dinks with Kinks, and I was like, I realized that I had a lot of hangups there, that I couldn't talk about that stuff. And so we had a conversation about that. You kind of asked me some questions, and I was slowly starting to unpack that. That I took that, and then I realized I had problems that I dealt with in the marriage, or that I didn't deal with in the marriage, about my sexual identity and my sexual dysfunction, my um, repression. Um, that I had just gone, it's her fault. She's the reason I'm this way. And then finally able to see that that wasn't the case. That was me not being willing to deal with my issues. So you've helped me um, really understand that part of me, or get in touch with that part of me, and to explore that. So you've had a big hand in that, and I appreciate it.
I really wish that you scapegoating me, that you were the only person that's ever done that to me.
Yeah.
And that is something that I'm actually having to face right now, like going through that period of my life and really facing that. And yeah, I spent most of my life. I'm the reason that they are like that. I'm the reason we don't have a good relationship. I have to get my shit together. I'm the reason that they don't want to be with me. Or I'm the reason that they have sexual dysfunction. Or I'm the reason that they don't trust people. I'm the reason that everything is going to shit. And honestly, just like hearing you say that is hard. It's hard. It's hard to hear that. Because I don't think I ever did anything to you out of spite. I don't think that was ever. I think that why it's so difficult for me, and I think it was so difficult for me even after the reboot, and just thinking back on it, and it just us talking about it now, is because even though we were shitty, there were times where we were really, 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 really shitty. There was
Yeah.
never a time where I didn't care about you. And even when you were with your ex and you're like, I remember very distinctly, like, and we've talked about this before, when you said, I can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
And how I cared about you and loved you. Make you want to throttle him. I cared so much about you that that was one of those fixed points in time with me, because I remember it breaking my heart. And at the same time, and it wasn't that I was in love with you. It was just that I loved you. And it was like it breaking my heart, but going, this is what he wants and this is what he needs. And I'm going to give him that. And turning around and walking away, not arguing, not doing anything, just giving you what you needed. So I think that's when we rebooted and you were telling me all of that, that's why it wrecked me. It was twofold. It was that I was having to relive that narrative that I was such a terrible person. And it was reinforcing that narrative that was in my head, which wasn't true. I mean, I did shitty stuff, but so does everybody when they're in their late teens, early 20s. Like, that's the thing that it's just like, I look back and I think that my therapist brought this up too. We think that those things are so bad or so bad. Like, was it that we were so bad, or was it that our religious upbringing made it seem worse than it really was? Because if you look at it,
was catastrophic.
Exactly. If you look at it, we didn't do anything that we considered terrible and bad and awful and like all of these things. Nothing that a normal late teen, even teenager nowadays, 20-something does nowadays. It's nothing different. It's that part of that development of, do you wish that you didn't have to go through that? Yeah. Do you wish that you never did that? Yeah. But it's part of that, that development. But we were made to feel like it was like, we're evil. We're the worst people on the planet.
Yeah. Yep. Because, between the purity culture, the sin, we're sinning, we're going to go to hell, all of that combined, we're terrible people and we got to be saved. All that combines for us to see everything that we did and everything that hurting other people as, oh, this is the worst. I'm an absolute terrible person.
Mm-hmm.
I made someone feel bad. Now I'm an absolute terrible person.
And they made me feel bad. They made a mistake, so they're evil.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was very easy for us to look at everyone as being a villain or as being a bad person. Everything instead of it just being a choice. Everyone and people making their choices, especially making the choices, think what's best for them. Everything was very black and white for us.
It was,
especially for me. So, I learned that the things that happened in my life were not your fault. They were never your fault.
I had some to do with it. I'm not even going to say that I'm not culpable for some of it, because there was
you did things we hurt each other, but I made a lot of choices around that. Yes, you did things, but the way my life turned out was not your fault. Let's say that. I made a lot of choices. Instead of dealing with any of it, I made a lot of bad choices that led my life to the direction it went.
It's funny. I am like, I wish, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. I wish I had $100 for every single time somebody said that I was the reason that their life was in the shitter. And I was the reason that your marriage was so bad. Even your ex said that. And I was like, we weren't even talking. By the time you guys got married, we weren't talking. We didn't talk for the entirety of your marriage. And yet I'm the reason that your marriage fell apart. What the fuck? I'm the reason. I'm like, that's why do you think that I have such trauma around why do you think that I'm starting to work on my relationships with other people? Because I don't trust people. Why do you think that people, because apparently I am the downfall of dozens of people on this planet, and I'm like, why am I to blame? Why am I to blame for y'all's choices? Like, I can understand that I have done trauma to you. I can take accountability for the mistakes that I have made. I can take accountability for there are times where I've hurt people or done something that hurt people, or I've done something that may have caused somebody to feel uncomfortable or whatever. I can take accountability for that. But why am I always the scapegoat? Why? Apparently, I don't know. If I had $1 for every time, like, you're the reason that my marriage fell apart, or you're the reason that I can't trust women, or you're the reason that I can't. Oh, I am? Okay, cool. Where checks in the mail, right? Did I get royalty fees for your trauma? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, and I think it's just because it's an easy. That was what I. It was an easy target. It was easy for me. It was easier for me to do that than it was to deal with what I was
But what
experiencing.
makes me an easy target? What made it me an easy target for you?
Because we had done negative things. There were things that
But why
that
me and not
didn't
that
hurt me.
person? Not why me and not that one person? Why me and not her? Because that person actually did more trauma
Yes.
to you
yeah,
than, but it was
yes.
me. That's the thing that I'm questioning is like, and there is a person, folks, that is not his ex-wife that is also involved in all of this. So that is where, but PepPep, why that?
Yeah.
Why me and not that other person?
I think it was because my ex had a focus on, like, she was already side-eyeing you. She already, I mean, look at the what happened, me pushing you away. Her giving me an ultimatum and then me accepting it. So I think it was easy to just throw all the shade that direction.
But that's not true because she side-eyed that other person too.
Yeah, just not as much. Because you were still, the reason she didn't like you is because she knew that you were the only person, you were the person who could get my attention and get me to think about things. The person who could get through to me when I was being, what's the word I'm looking for?
PepPep.
When I was being PepPep, yes. There you go. I was being PepPep. Yes. You were the person who would call me out and the one I would often listen to. She knew as long as you were in my life that there was a risk involved. And we see that as soon as when we rebooted. Yeah. And see, a lot people may think there are people there are a lot of girlfriends and wives that thought Arugs is a risk because she's gonna steal my man. No, Arugs is a risk because she has the ability to have a real conversation with the person and go and help them to be introspective. Is this what you want? Is this what you? Because that was the thing. Oh, that was the Arugs would be like, is this what you want? Is this what you really want? Okay, all right. I mean, that. If that's what you want, that was. I mean, that was that common thing. You were like, all right. You were the only person. You were the person that would be able to, as was seen at the end of at the separation. Even when we had decided to get divorced, she was still running all over me. She was still walking all over me at that point. It wasn't until we were talking, and you were kind of like that voice of reason, that voice that, because you didn't look at me and go, "You're wrong. You're being stupid." Well, I mean, I think you did a few times, but you often would ask the questions to get me to think about it. And she knew, she flipped out. Even though we were on the way to going to get a divorce, she flipped out as soon as she knew that we were talking again, because she knew that she couldn't get her way as long as you were around. She couldn't run all over me if you were around. because she knew I listened to you. You were a threat because things weren't good. She couldn't get her way if you were talking to me, if we were friends. And that's what happened.
That's a lot of my trauma. That right there is I got labeled a slut, and even I got big. And I know this is PepPep story time, but I guess it ties in.
No, go ahead.
Is because I'm good looking. I'm confident. Well, I used to be, but I'm getting there. I'm getting back there. I just wanted what was best for the people I cared about. And a lot of the times it was that, like, I was that sounding board for my male friends. And I was good looking and I was confident and I was bubbly and I didn't have any, like, I didn't subscribe to that whole demure, like, oh, blah, blah. I didn't. And you're right. I asked the questions, not because I was wanting to manipulate them, but because I really wanted what was best for the people that I loved. And I got labeled a slut. Well, you just want to fuck him. And they're just listening to you because they want to fuck you. And I got reduced over the years. And I really, honestly, that was where I when I was talking about on Monday, when I came to, like, I believed that I was a slut, like that I was just around all these people, and like, it's just because they wanted to sleep with me. They didn't really care about me. They just wanted to sleep with me, and everything that my relationship with them was just about sex. It was just about that. And it was like, I remember that hurting a lot, because that's never what it was ever about for me. I mean, were there people that I was sexually attracted to? Yeah. I mean, who isn't? Like who, like that? That's just biological. But at the same time, that was never my driving force. And
Yes, Bates, you're absolutely right.
For those of you who are, do you want to read that, PepPep? Because I might cry.
Yeah. Yes, in case you're lurking and you're not reading this, Bates says Arugs will fully engage with whomever she's having a conversation with. She follows up with questions that show she's listening and also make you use your thinking skills. It causes a whimsical moment to really enjoy and relive the passion of whatever the topic was.
Thank you, Bates. I appreciate that.
That's very true. Arugs asks them the smart, important, probing questions.
I like to probe. And I also make the inappropriate comments.
And the inappropriate comments. Yes. Thanks, Calvina. Thanks for pinning that. Yeah. So that's why it's so easy to villainize you. That's why people see you as a threat, because there's something wrong. They know that you will ask those questions. People don't like that. People don't like when you make their apple cart unstable.
Do you know I actually got in trouble? You say that, and here's the funny thing. I know it was PepPep story time that has turned into talking about Arugs, but fine. I actually had a friend where I'd asked a question, and I said, "Listen, I don't want to upset the apple cart, like, for you," because they were, I don't know what they were, like, they had wanted to do something, and we were talking about it. I was like, I don't want to upset the apple cart. Like, I just don't. I would rather, like, I don't want to upset the apple cart. Well, their significant other, like, and they were very open with them. Like, it wasn't that we were hiding anything. Like, we were friends. Yeah. We were friends. And she's very much like your ex, and was like, grab the phone and all this stuff. I mean, that's that's how I know it was like, never did anything inappropriate, because, like, whatever. But she's like, what does she mean by that? Yep. Am I the apple cart? Like, is she saying that I'm, like, she literally thought I was like, she just went off on, like, just me saying a colloquialism of, I just don't want to upset anyone. That's fine. Like, I'm okay. She goes, she thought I was, like, insulting her. That I had called her an apple cart.
I mean, was she built like one? I don't.
Anyway, this is not about me.
We're gonna move on.
This is not about me.
Move on. No, not at all.
Okay, so. Last thing, because we're running a little over, but this is really important because I want to get this off of me because this isn't about me. This really isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have I am very much involved in your life, but I mean, this isn't about me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You go back in time, and you can pick. I want you to pick any moment in your past. Any moment. And I want you to go tell yourself what would you tell yourself in the most significant moment in your life? One of. And it could be any time. It could be like 2 years ago. It could be 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not saying your inner child, like a moment that sticks out that you said, I wish I had somebody tell me something.
Honestly, the point that I go back to is me telling you that I couldn't talk to you anymore, because that was all kinds of wrong. That the ultimatum that she gave, my accepting the ultimatum, my thinking that was okay, me not not seeing the red flag. That was that moment.
So what would you
just wanted
to tell yourself? What would you say?
I would just tell myself to take a little time. I think I would tell myself to think about it, to think about what I was doing and whether I was really okay with that. What was I accomplishing? What did I want? What did I really want for my life?
Why is that important?
Because I was so caught up on. I am a conflict averse. Mm-hmm. I was so caught up on. I've got to do this thing because I have to do this thing to keep the relationship going. And I'm so conflict averse that like the idea of doing it just sent me into anxiety attacks. So I became, instead of focused on the thing that what I was conveying and the choice that I was making, I was focused on the action of the having of the conversation, saying the words. Like, am I gonna be strong enough to have this conversation, to have this conflict moment? And I didn't really think as much about what really was I doing and what was I allowing, the choice that I was making.
What would you tell yourself? And other than just think about it, what? Because you're not going to just say just think about it. Like, what would you tell yourself? Oh, see, you know what you would tell yourself because I could tell by your face.
No, I well, what I would tell myself, what I want to tell myself, and what would actually help in that moment.
Okay, do both.
What I want to tell myself is, you're being an idiot. Really? You're getting rid of the Porsche so you can keep the jalopy? Like, really? And I don't mean that like we were dating or that's no, the fact your friendship was the Porsche. My relationship with her was the jalopy, the old 1988 Honda.
Beer God has a point. Jalopy has cheaper insurance, but not nearly as fun.
That's what I wanted to be like, dude, seriously? Do you realize, is this what, how do you see this working out for you? That's what I want to do. Listen, younger Sean, Think about this. Like, really think about this.
I want you to have that conversation right now, right quick. I want you to have that conversation with yourself.
I want you to think about this. Like, look at her. Think about her. Think about your ex. Think about her. Think about her. Now look at her. Which one is more important to you? And when I say look, I don't mean like appearance. I mean look as in like, is that relationship, is that what you want? Where do you see that going? She's asking you to let go of one of the most important people in your life. You okay with that? I think I would have done to me what you do to me.
You mean you would have had the same conversation I had with you that caused you to not talk to me for 15 years? You would have the same conversation? Yeah. You would have that conversation? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because you did ask me, it's like, this is what you want. But again, I was so caught up on doing the thing, having the conversation, and not really understanding what that conversation meant. What was the repercussions of that? Yeah. That's what I would tell I would like shift that focus from one to the other. From, is this who you want? Is this what you want your life to be? Is this what your life looks like? Or you want this to be what your life looks like? Elbow deep in my jalopy. Oh my God. If you've seen my jalopy, you would not.
I'm sure your jalopy had redeeming qualities. That's why you married them.
Yeah. At one point, yeah, there was.
Well, as I'm wrapping up, first off, I am very proud of you. What you have, and you managed to do it with only taking 2 drinks of your drink, by the way.
Hands on my lap.
Second, I am very proud of you, and I appreciate your openness and your honesty, and just I'm very proud of how far you've come, because you have come a long way. And you've come a long way in the past 2 years, like in the past year and a half, like being and opening up and making yourself vulnerable and answering questions honestly and introspectively. That's not something that you has come easily to you at all. And I want our community to recognize that. I want them to know that that is something that PepPep has been working on very much, of not being defensive and really being able to be honest without also taking on that blame and shame. And I think that you did that really well today, PepPep. I thought like you were able to talk about yourself and talk about some of your trauma and talk about some of your experience without actually taking on any of that blame and shame and really beat yourself up. And I'm very proud of you for that. Like that, those are big steps. Those are things that you've worked very, very hard on, and you did it so easily. You did it easily. And I think that is something to be proud of. And I want you to know that I see that and I acknowledge that. And I am so grateful for your honesty. And because I made you swear, I said, will you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, Sky Daddy? I literally made him swear that.
You did. Absolutely did. It's your cat. And I was like, yes. So I was like, so I want to say reply to what Paragon said. Paragon said, it scares me if I ever get a chance to start streaming and get invited to one of these to have Dami, Mommy, Arugs interrogate me. I want to say this because we had this right before we got on the stream. When I said I'm anxious. I said I'm sitting here all anxious, and she was like, "Do you want to do this? Are you okay doing this? Are you okay being honest? Are you at that place where you can be honest? Because if you're not going to be honest, then there's no point in doing this. There's no point. I'm not going to ask you questions if you're just going to lie." So I was not here. I could not have done this a year ago, 6 months. I don't even know if I could do this 6 months ago. Right. So if I had said, I'm not there yet, I can't do this, then this wouldn't have happened. So like Paragon, if that ever becomes a thing, if you're like, if that's an opportunity and you're not ready for it, you don't have to do it. It is okay to not be in that place where you can't answer these questions fully honestly, or you don't even know what you'd say. It's okay to be in that place.
Why are you asking me? I'm not in charge. I do not have a monocle. I have glasses because I'm blind as a bat. Here's also. I also like. I know you see me. Oh, shit, take it off. I know I bought them for you, but take them off. Here's what I want my community. What you see right now, what you see is many years of Sean and I building up that trust. I know Sean's cues. I know. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, get on my soapbox a little bit. Here's the thing. I feel like that should be on a t-shirt. Here's the thing. We have things at trauma, and we're always talking about the bad things, the bad traits that our trauma brings us. But at the same time, here's what one I've always had. It's part of my personality. It's part of who I am. It is part of what I'm discovering. Isn't my trauma so much, but it got honed by my trauma. It got perfected by my trauma. Is I have always known how to see people. I know how to watch people. I know how to read people. I know how to, now, has it got warped by my trauma and how like then the hypervigilance, then I get a little like crazy about it? Yes. But that has always been, something I don't ever push past a point of discomfort. I will ask questions, but I know when to back off. I know when to, that's what makes me a great teacher. I was always one of those educators. I knew how to gauge the moment I walked into a classroom, where I needed to be with my personality, where I needed to be with my discipline. Like I knew, because that's just part of, I am able to see that. I'm able to see social cues. I'm able to see all those things. That's just part of who I am. It's part of my personality. It's part of my extrovert. It's part of the trauma has honed those skills. Again, but sometimes trauma does, we call them the trauma superpowers. Like sometimes, yes, is there always a flip side to it? Is there always that bad side that, like I said, has caused that hypervigilance, has caused all of that stuff, and has caused internally caused me a bunch of turmoil? Yes. But there's always that good side to it. And it's caused me to, one, be able to make people know where the line is, to know how far I can go, to know how deep I can get. And because I'm 12, how hard I can push somebody to really think about themselves and question things, how deep I can go on a subject, how in depth I can go, and just how I'm able to do that. So what you're seeing right now between PepPep and I, remember, we've known the worst parts of each other. So I know how hard I can, the questions I can ask and what questions I can ask, and how to make sure if I see him getting in a place where he's not good, how to take that off of him. So it is one of the things that I try to do. I try very hard to make sure that I ask introspective questions and make people feel like they're heard and listened, but also make sure that they understand that they're safe. And making people feel safe means understanding where their boundaries are. And their boundaries will change. And what they're comfortable with does change. Like you said, we would not be able to have this episode without all the work that PepPep has done. He is the reason that we are able to have an episode like this. So, but turnabout is fair play. So next week, PepPep.
On the other foot.
She was on the other foot. Next week, you can show up and let PepPep ask me all the hard questions.
A Roog story time. Which, I mean, I stream more than you and all that shit. So it's like, what are you going to ask that I haven't already said? But you know what? There's fair. The hard part is figuring out which questions you haven't already answered.
Right.
On
And so community, how about this? You come up with you come bring me questions that you are just dying to know. You know, everybody like it'll be, you know what? Arugs is in the hot seat. So
Get the buns warm.
phrasing. Yeah, there's a phrasing in there. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And PepPep, I'm proud of you. And thank you for letting me put you in the hot seat. So go get an ice pack.
Yeah. Stick my butt in the freezer.
So we have 76 Sundays. We have a new scoreboard. And yeah, I think today, PepPep, do you want to help me? And maybe, I don't know if Labor Mayhem is watching. I don't know. We might have to message him, or Jay, I mean, are you well enough? I don't know. Like I sort of want to get a group because I need to kill 30 blood eagles with a blunt object. So I'm going to need some help. I'm going to need help because I am not going to survive, but I'm going to take my wiffle bat. I'm going to take my wiffle bat. Easiest book. I'm taking my wiffle back and I got to go kill 30 blood eagles. I think that is,
do it.
Yeah. He's the whacker smacker. No, it is more fun if you do the wiffle bat, Jay. Are you not seeing that this is the whole thing? And by the way, it's a vampire wiffle bat, so it's fine. It's cute. It's all right. I might even put on a cute outfit for it. But that is going to be our plan for 76 Sundays.
Is your cute outfit going to be in the game or in real life? Or both?
I don't know. You'll just have to show up and see. Stay tuned and see.
Ooh.
Dead by Daylight. Okay. All right. Bye, Bates. Bye, everyone. I'm starting the Halloween camp. You need to start the porn camp. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.